Hey guys, Sean from Top 5 Fit. Beautiful Tuesday afternoon out on the trails. Was thinking of some things to talk about. Been watching some videos on how men over 40 should be training and what they should and shouldn't be doing and what ultimately is a good idea for conditioning and what's not. And as I was watching the videos, I started kind of figuring out that the people that are actually putting the videos on and doing the, instructing, if you will, how you doing, they're not 40. They're 35, 38, 37, but they're not 40. They're not even over 40. And there is this kind of, I guess, off switch in my brain that went off right away. It's like I'm listening to a 30-something-year-old tell me what I should and shouldn't be doing. Okay, so that kind of gave me reason to put this together. I'm over 40, and these are some things that I take into consideration with my own training and how I move forward with, events, races, nutrition, all of it. So here we go. Number one, mentality. Right off the bat, I'll have new clients, people I've just met. At some point, the question of age actually pops up, and they'll say, "How old are you?" And I've been giving this response for probably the past 6-7 years or so now. I simply reply, thousands of years old, thousands. And they laugh and they're like, "You can't be thousands. How old are you really?" And I've gotten even as far down to 36 and 35. And by the way, for those of you that thought that, thank you. But no, I'm over 40. I am what a lot of YouTubers would call an old man. So there's things right away that I shouldn't be able to do. But the reason that I give that response all the time, thousands of years old, something was lost a long time ago in society when it came to, how you doing? When it came to whether or not the hard way is the desirable way. So in comics, in history, in lore, there are tales here and there of these super old beings, people, whatever it is, live on top of the mountaintop, living in different dimensions, so on and so forth, but they've been around since time began. And if it's a good guy, well, there's usually a lot of knowledge to be gained, and they can help with the path that you're set on and make sure that you don't make missteps and make things real efficient and comfort for you. If they're a bad guy, they're really hard to beat. If anything, there's a lot of damage left, even if you do beat them, because they're so old and so strong. So right away, that's a mentality that I grabbed onto quickly. Don't look at your age as something that stops you. Look at it as something that ultimately gives you an advantage over those that are coming behind you. They're going to make a lot of missteps, and you're not, if you're paying attention. That's the difference. A lot of people assume that just getting older means things deteriorate and you get stuff taken away from you. Well, this is a game. This is all about you being able to figure out your body as time progresses. And there's things that I now have to do because I'm older. But that doesn't necessarily mean that my performance has dropped in such a manner that I'm a shadow of my former self. That's not how it is. So right away, you got to stop looking at age as something that's a bad thing. So that's number one. Number two, and this is something that the younger generation doesn't necessarily have to pay attention to, but the older you get, how are you? Good. The older you get, you have to pay attention to your recovery. I stress a lot with people that walk through my doors. If you don't pay attention to how each workout is affecting you within the next 24, 48 hours or so, you're kind of missing the point of training. You're kind of missing the point of getting better in your training. You're just beating yourself up. You're not supposed to be sore 24 hours a day. Your legs aren't supposed to be throbbing and unable to, I post a lot of funny memes about I had leg day, I can't sit down on the toilet. That's fine for a day or two, but that kind of stuff shouldn't be going on for weeks on end. So if you're in a conditioning program that's ultimately keeping you sore and breaking you down and you're not recovering from it, you know, you're talking about cumulative damage now. You're talking about not being able to have effectively, I don't know, move on to the next workout, which is what it's all about. You being able to get as many training sessions in as possible, and they all need to be effective. So, afternoon. So, right away, if you aren't stretching, if you're not paying attention to your hydration, if you're not getting massages, using foam rollers, if you're not going after all of these tools to basically repair yourself, well, things are going to shut down. You're going to end up with, I can't do this anymore because of that injury kind of thing. And yeah, all of a sudden now it's easy to blame the age and blame the, I'm over 40, I'm not supposed to do this. Again, as we progress through our fitness journey, it's all about adapting to the stresses that get placed upon us. I mean, that's actually been said before. It's not the strongest, it's certainly not the fastest, it's not the fittest that wins, it's the one who can adapt. So as we age, we need to be able to adapt. Like I said, I enjoy a 300, 400 pound bench press. I need to open up my chest and pay a little bit more attention to stretching and, you know, shoulder range of motion in order to keep that kind of activity going. So recovery matters. You know, you need to be able to bounce back from your workout so that you can progress on to another workout. Okay? Number 3, nutrition. When you are older, your digestive system changes just a little bit. And it's not necessarily a bad change, it's just, okay, to give you an example of how things have, I guess, evolved over my short period of time on this planet. When I was about 19, 20 years old, every goal that I had that had anything to do with fitness or, you know, athletic performance was basically dipped in, you need to be as big as possible. You need to be huge. You need to be massive. And you got to remember, and I may have told you this, I may not have, I was a collegiate cheerleader, so having a bunch of people stand on me and be a large base, you know, that was comforting. And it was nice to be able to stand next to the offensive and defensive line of the colleges I, you know, cheered for and know that I was only maybe 10, 20 pounds off from them. 315 pounds, I used to tumble. It was frightening. So we would go to all-you-can-eat buffets, $6.99 biker bars, all-you-can-eat pizza and chicken, and consume thousands of calories in a sitting, thousands. And some nights, because I wasn't that social of a creature, we would even find ourselves in the weight room lifting after that. You know, so large, powerful bodies were built. You know, we were like cattle at that point, just feeding and training and feeding and training. And, you know, we made massive bodies that way. I can tell you right now, as somebody over 40, if I were to sit down to an all-you-can-eat buffet, much less just pizza and chicken, it would still be delicious. But every joint in my body would probably swell to the point where it could barely move. Wouldn't be able to make a fist. The sodium would affect me that badly. These are things that when you're younger, you know, you shrug off. When you get older, the effects of those foods, the effects of those items show up in places you don't expect them to be. You know, your joints, your back gets tight, your hamstrings seize up when you don't want them to. You know, you're retaining more water than you'd like to. So you have to pay attention to the frequency in which you take these food items in. Don't get me wrong, I have cheat days, I have cheat meals, I have pizza every now and then, ice cream, but it's so far and few between. And if I'm in the dead center of a mileage climb or a heavy lift, or, you know, trying to bring back the days of graceful handsprings, I don't touch it. Because any micro trauma that I experience to joints, muscle group, anything, is pretty much flared 10 times fold because I've got crappy dairy and excess sugar in my system. So your nutrition becomes important. And it's not necessarily, like I said, in the sense that you have to just start cutting everything out. It's you have to become a little bit more attentive to how these food items are actually, you know, reacting in your body. And that's not asking too much. Number 4, and this is something that gets a lot of guys over 40 in trouble. Old ghosts, old injuries, things that we did in the days of yesteryear. You know, there was a time when I literally thought that I could crack the sidewalk if I wanted to, knock a tree down with my shoulder because I was so thick and heavy. And then one day I came home and I was reaching for a shoebox and my back gave out and I basically went to the floor and couldn't get up. Oh, runner coming. Much faster than me. Much faster than me. So right away the gears started turning. Something's wrong here. 20 minutes later, 30 minutes later, got up, figured out that I needed to move a little bit. Chiropractor visit, a couple of chats with the athletic trainer, things were back to normal. That never left. Every now and then, you know, past 40, I'll get a little reminder that you pissed your back off. I'll get a little reminder that your knee is sensitive because of throwing a back tuck on a hardwood floor at 300 pounds and hearing some crunching and ignoring it. So these things that we've done to our structures over the years, they're still there. They never go away. A lot of times, guys in general will go into training programs right away thinking they can pull off what they used to do and will not really move in a progressive manner and just kind of pick up where they left off and then, oh, I don't understand why I shut down and, oh, I've got to go get surgery now because I blew out my meniscus on my knee. Progression is important, and you have to pay attention to those old ghosts, those old injuries, which means if you are over 40, you should be adapting your training to the point where there's some type of programming in place to work on that back issue. There's some type of programming in place on top of all the fun stuff. We like to bench, we like to squat, we like to deadlift. But unfortunately, deadlifting by itself isn't necessarily going to take care of back issues. So these things have to be taken into consideration. Which brings me to number 5, ego. 40-year-old men are miserable when it comes to ego. We think we can do anything. We immediately compete with younger males around us. I'm guilty of that. If I see somebody in the weight room even trying to move any kind of weight, it's, alpha male just picks up right away. Not everybody does that, I realize that. But ego gets people into trouble. We tend to think that because we are who we are, we can do what we want, especially if we already accomplished it. I'm on a slow climb myself from basically no mileage at all to getting back to what I consider an acceptable race to go through this summer. I'm treating it as if I've never ran before. That's kind of how I have to treat it. So Tiger Woods, don't boo and whatever. Before you hated him, he was a tremendous golfer. He was an animal. Before his dad passed, I remember him being quoted one time as to saying that every year, whenever, didn't matter what he won, you know, I don't know anything about golf, but it didn't really matter what he actually, battery's low, didn't actually know what he was going to be, I guess, you know, bringing home that year. So it wasn't like he planned to win every Jesus count. You know, he practiced, he trained. So at the end of the year, it doesn't matter how many trophies and, you know, events that he get. You can totally tell I'm not a golfer because I don't even know what the hell to call them. Tournaments. You can totally tell that no matter how much he won, how much he got done, his dad always did the same thing, made him go back to the fundamentals, made him go back to the basics. Men over 40 need to do that with everything that you do. You need to treat every sport that you engage in every year as if you've never done it before, which means you're relearning your form, you're relearning about your energy consumption, you're relearning about your hydration needs, you're relearning about what your weight does. these are all things that if you don't know what's going on, they end up being the very things that bring you down. So keep your ego in check. Make sure you're not overreaching. Make sure you have a realistic plan. And there really isn't too much you can't do. So from an over 40-year-old, thanks for listening. If you like what you're hearing and you think it's helping you out, then obviously hit the subscribe button. Don't be afraid to throw some comments and even suggestions on what you think we need to be talking about here. But outside of that, I'm going to continue on and enjoy the rest of this day. You guys have a great day. Thanks for listening.